"You should not be in here." The voice cut through the dusty silence like a blade, and Nora Caldwell froze with her hand still resting on the ancient wooden box. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she turned slowly, expecting to see Mrs. Thornwood, the head housekeeper who would surely dismiss her for snooping where she did not belong. But the figure standing in the doorway of the attic was not Mrs. Thornwood. It was a man she had never seen before, tall and broad-shouldered, with eyes that seemed to glow faintly in the dim light filtering through the small window. He wore clothes too fine for a servant, too casual for nobility, and he watched her with an intensity that made her skin prickle with awareness. "I was just cleaning," Nora managed to say, her voice barely above a whisper. "The mistress asked me to organize the attic." The man stepped forward, and with each movement, Nora felt something shift in the air around them. Something electric and dangerous that made no sense. "Put the box down," he said quietly. But there was steel beneath the softness. "Put it down and step away from it." Nora looked down at the box beneath her fingers. It was beautiful in an ancient way, carved from dark wood that had not deteriorated, despite what must have been decades of neglect. Symbols were etched into its surface, symbols she did not recognize, but that seemed to pulse faintly beneath her touch. The seal of deep crimson wax bore an imprint of what looked like a wolf's head, crowned with a crescent moon. Something about it called to her, whispered to her in a language she had never learned but somehow understood. "I asked you a question," the man said, closer now, close enough that she could smell pine and winter air clinging to him. "Who gave you permission to touch that box?" "No one," Nora admitted, lifting her chin despite the fear coursing through her veins. She had spent her entire life being invisible, being nothing, being the orphan girl without a wolf who cleaned floors and emptied chamber pots for people who would never know her name. She was tired of apologizing for existing. "I found it beneath those old blankets. I was curious." The man's eyes narrowed, and for a moment, Nora thought she saw them flash gold. Impossible. Unless he was a shifter, one of the blessed ones who could command their wolf at will. "Curious," he repeated, and there was something almost amused in his tone now. "Curiosity is dangerous for someone in your position." Before Nora could ask what he meant, before she could step away from the box as he had commanded, her fingers pressed against the wax seal. She had not meant to do it. It was as if her hand moved of its own accord, drawn by some invisible force she could not name. The seal cracked beneath the pressure. The sound was small, insignificant, just a tiny fracture in old wax. But the effect was catastrophic. Power exploded outward from the box like a shockwave, a blast of energy so intense that Nora was thrown backward. She hit the wall hard enough to knock the breath from her lungs, stars dancing across her vision. The man cursed, a sharp, vicious sound, and then he was there, his hands gripping her shoulders, his face inches from hers. "What did you do?" he demanded. And now there was no amusement, only urgency, and something that might have been fear. "What in the name of the moon did you just do?" Nora could not answer. She could not breathe, because something was happening inside her. Something that felt like waking up after a lifetime of sleep. Heat flooded her veins, starting from her fingertips where she had touched the seal, and spreading through her entire body in waves that made her gasp. Her skin felt too tight, her bones ached, and beneath it all was a howl building in her chest. A howl she had never been able to make because she had no wolf. Except that was a lie. She could feel it now. Feel her. A presence that had always been there but dormant. Sleeping. Waiting. "Impossible," the man whispered, and his hands tightened on her shoulders. "You are supposed to be human. You have no scent, no wolf. How is this possible?" The attic door slammed open, and suddenly the small space was crowded with people. Nora recognized some of them as members of the household staff, but others were strangers, all of them staring at her with expressions ranging from shock to outright terror. "The seal has been broken," someone said, a woman with silver-streaked hair and a voice like winter frost. After all these years, someone finally broke the Silvercrest seal. Silvercrest. The name meant nothing to Nora, but it clearly meant something to everyone else. The room erupted into whispers, into arguments, into accusations and demands. Through it all, the man who had found her kept his hands on her shoulders, kept his body between her and the others, as if protecting her from something she could not see. "Everyone out," he said, and his voice carried a weight of command that silenced the room instantly. "Now." They obeyed without question, filing out of the attic until only Nora and the man remained. He released her shoulders slowly, carefully, as if she might shatter if he moved too quickly. "My name is Marcus," he said quietly. "I am the beta of the Blackthorn Pack, and you just triggered an alarm that will bring the Alpha King himself to this estate within the hour." Nora pressed her back against the wall, trying to process his words through the chaos still raging inside her body. The Alpha King, Cassian Blackthorn. Even she, isolated as she was, knew that name. He ruled all the packs with absolute authority, a warrior king who had taken power through strength and cunning and had held it for nearly a decade. Stories about him ranged from reverent to terrified, but all agreed on one thing. He was not a man to be trifled with. "I did not mean to," Nora said, and hated how small her voice sounded. "I did not know. I was just cleaning. Did not know about any seal or any Silvercrest or any of this." Marcus studied her face for a long moment, and Nora had the unsettling feeling that he was seeing far more than she wanted to reveal. "What is your name?" he asked. "Nora Caldwell." "And your parents? Your family?" "Dead," Nora said flatly. "They died when I was 3. I was raised in the church orphanage until I was old enough to work. I have been a servant here for 5 years. No pack affiliation? No knowledge of your bloodline?" Nora almost laughed, but there was nothing funny about it. "I am human, or at least I thought I was. I have never shifted. I have no wolf scent. The church tests all orphans when they turn 16 to see if they carry shifter blood. I tested negative." Marcus looked at the box, which now lay open on the floor, its lid blown off by the force of whatever power had been sealed inside. Nora followed his gaze and saw what had been hidden within. Scrolls, old and fragile, wrapped in silk, that had somehow remained pristine despite the passage of time. And resting on top of them, a signet ring of white gold, its face carved with the same symbol that had been on the wax seal. A wolf's head crowned with a crescent moon. "The Silvercrest Sigil," Marcus said quietly. "The royal line that ruled before Cassian took power. They were massacred 23 years ago in a coup orchestrated by the Ashford family. Every man, woman, and child was killed. Or so we believed." He looked at Nora, with an expression she could not read. "But if the seal recognized you, if it allowed you to break it, then you carry Silvercrest blood. Which means everything we thought we knew about that night is a lie." Nora's legs gave out, and she slid down the wall until she was sitting on the dusty floor, her mind struggling to grasp what he was telling her. Royal blood. Massacre. Impossible. She was nobody. She was nothing. She cleaned floors and washed linens and tried not to anger the cook. She could not be connected to any of this. "There must be a mistake," she said desperately. "The seal must be broken. It must have responded to anyone's touch after so many years. It cannot mean what you think it means. The Silvercrest seals were created by blood magic," Marcus explained, crouching down so he was at her eye level. "They only respond to direct descendants of the royal line. If you were not Silvercrest, the seal would have killed you the moment you touched it. Instead, it opened for you. And from the way your wolf is stirring right now, I would say it did more than just open. It woke something inside you that has been sleeping your entire life." As if in response to his words, Nora felt another surge of heat, another pulse of that strange power that made her gasp. Her vision blurred, and for a moment, she saw the world differently, sharper, clearer, every scent and sound magnified until it was almost overwhelming. Then it faded, leaving her shaking and confused. "What is happening to me?" she whispered. "Your wolf is waking up," Marcus said gently, "which should not be possible at your age. But apparently the Silvercrest magic works differently than we understood. The seal must have been suppressing your wolf all these years, keeping you hidden, keeping you safe. Safe from what? But even as Nora asked the question, she knew the answer. Safe from whoever had killed the rest of her family. Safe from the people who would want to finish what they started 23 years ago. Safe from a world that would see her as either a threat or a tool to be used. "We need to move you," Marcus said, rising to his feet and extending a hand to help her up. "Before Cassian arrives, I need to get you somewhere more secure. Somewhere we can protect you while we figure out what this means." Nora stared at his hand, but did not take it. "Why would you protect me? You do not know me. You do not owe me anything." Marcus smiled, and it was a sad, weary expression. "Because 23 years ago, I served in the Silvercrest Guard. I was just a young soldier then, barely more than a boy, but I was there the night of the massacre. I heard the screams. I saw the blood, and I have spent every day since wondering if there was something I could have done differently, some way I could have saved them." He flexed his fingers, still offering his hand. "If you truly are Silvercrest, if you truly survived when we all thought the line was extinct, then maybe I get a chance to do what I failed to do back then. Maybe I get a chance to protect the last of the royal blood." Nora took his hand, not because she trusted him, but because she had no other choice. Her world had shattered in the space of minutes, and she was grasping for anything solid to hold on to. Marcus pulled her to her feet with surprising gentleness, then moved to gather the contents of the box. He wrapped the scrolls and the signet ring carefully in the silk, handling them as if they were sacred relics. "Do not touch anything else," he warned. "If there are more protections woven into these items, I would rather not trigger them until we have someone who understands Silvercrest magic." They had just reached the attic door when Nora felt it. A presence, vast and overwhelming, pressing against her awareness like a physical weight. She stumbled, and Marcus caught her elbow, his expression tightening. "He is here," Marcus said quietly. "The king." He felt the seal break, and he came immediately. "I thought you said we had an hour," Nora managed to say, through the pressure building in her skull. "I was wrong. I have never felt him move this fast." Marcus guided her down the narrow attic stairs, through the servants' passages, but Nora knew it was futile. Whatever was coming, whoever was coming, she could feel him getting closer with every breath. It was like standing in the path of an avalanche, knowing there was no escape, only the terrible anticipation of impact. They emerged into the main hallway just as the front doors crashed open. The household staff scattered like birds before a storm, and Nora found herself rooted to the spot, unable to move, unable to look away from the man who strode through the entrance, as if he owned not just this estate, but the very air they breathed. Cassian Blackthorn, the Alpha King. Nora had imagined him before, of course. Everyone did. But nothing could have prepared her for the reality. He was tall, easily a head taller than Marcus, with shoulders broad enough to block out the light from the doorway. His hair was dark as midnight, falling to his shoulders in waves that somehow looked both wild and controlled. But it was his eyes that caught her, held her, refused to let her go. They were amber, bright as molten gold, and they fixed on her with an intensity that stole the breath from her lungs. He stopped 3 paces away, and Nora watched as those impossible eyes widened fractionally, watched as something like shock crossed his features before his expression hardened into something unreadable. "You," he said, and his voice was everything she had expected, and nothing like it at the same time. Deep, commanding, but with an undercurrent of something that sounded almost like wonder. "You broke the Silvercrest seal." It was not a question, but Nora nodded anyway, unable to form words under the weight of his stare. Cassian took a step closer, and Nora's instincts screamed at her to run, to flee, to get away from this predator who was looking at her like she was both prey and prize. But she was still frozen, still trapped in his gaze. "Impossible," Cassian murmured. And then he did something Nora never expected. He inhaled deeply, scenting the air around her, and his eyes flashed pure gold. "You have no scent. No wolf signature. You should be human." "She was," Marcus said, stepping forward but keeping himself slightly to the side, not quite between them but close. "Until she broke the seal. Now her wolf is waking." Cassian's attention snapped to his beta, and Nora felt the loss of his focus like a physical ache. "Explain," the king commanded. Marcus did, laying out everything that had happened in the attic with concise efficiency. Cassian listened without interrupting, his expression growing darker with every word. When Marcus finished, silence stretched between them, heavy and dangerous. "Show me the box," Cassian said finally. "Show me everything." They returned to the attic, though this time, Nora felt like she was walking to her execution rather than back to a simple cleaning task. Cassian moved through the narrow space with a grace that should have been impossible for someone his size, and when he saw the opened box, saw the sigil on the ring Marcus had carefully laid out, something in his face shifted. He crouched down, studying the items without touching them, and Nora watched as his jaw clenched. "It is real," he said quietly. "The silver crest seal, the royal ring, the blood, scrolls, all of it is real." He looked up at Nora, and this time there was something calculating in his expression, something that made her want to run. "Which means you are real. The question is, are you a miracle or a trap?" "I am neither," Nora said, finding her voice at last. "I am a servant. I am nobody. Whatever you think I am, whatever that seal means, you are wrong." Cassian rose to his full height, and Nora had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. "The silver crest seal does not make mistakes," he said. "It was crafted with the most powerful blood magic ever created, designed to protect the royal line's most precious secrets. It would kill anyone without the proper bloodline who tried to open it. You not only survived touching it, you awakened it, which means you are Silvercrest, and that makes you very, very far from nobody." He turned to Marcus. "Clear the estate. I want every servant, every guard, every resident moved to the north wing within the hour. This wing is now under royal seal. No one enters without my direct permission." "Your Majesty," Marcus began, but Cassian cut him off with a look. "That was not a suggestion, Beta. It was an order." Marcus bowed his head in submission, though Nora could see the tension in his shoulders. "As you command." As Marcus left to carry out the order, Cassian returned his attention to Nora, and she felt that overwhelming pressure again, that sense of being seen too clearly, too completely. "You will come with me," he said. "You will answer my questions, and you will tell me everything you know about your past, your family, your life. Leave nothing out." "And if I refuse?" Nora asked, though she knew it was foolish to challenge him. Something flickered in Cassian's eyes, something that might have been approval, or might have been amusement. "You do not want to know the answer to that question," he said softly. "But I will tell you this. If you truly are Silvercrest, then your life just became infinitely more complicated and infinitely more dangerous. There are people who will kill you simply for existing. There are others who will try to use you as a pawn in their political games. And there are some who will see you as a threat to the throne I have held for the past 9 years. He took a step closer, close enough that Nora could feel the heat radiating from his body. "So, you have a choice, Nora Caldwell. You can come with me willingly, accept my protection, and give me a chance to determine whether you are truly who the seal claims you are, or you can refuse, and I will have you taken into custody as a potential security threat to the realm. Either way, you are coming with me. The only question is whether you walk or whether I carry you." Nora lifted her chin, meeting his gaze with every ounce of defiance she could muster. She had spent her entire life being pushed around, being told what to do, being invisible and voiceless. If she was going to die, if this was all going to end in blood and betrayal as it apparently had for her family, then she would at least face it on her feet. "I will walk," she said clearly. But understand this, Your Majesty. I do not know anything about Silvercrest or royal blood or any of this. I am an orphan who has spent her life scrubbing floors. If you are expecting some hidden princess who knows secrets and magic, you are going to be disappointed. For the first time since he had arrived, Cassian smiled. It was a small thing, barely a curve of his lips, but it transformed his face from severely handsome to devastatingly beautiful. I have learned never to expect anything, he said. People are far more interesting when they surprise you. He gestured toward the door. Come. We have much to discuss, and I would prefer to do it somewhere more comfortable than a dusty attic. Nora moved past him, acutely aware of how close he was, how his presence seemed to fill every inch of space around her. As she reached the doorway, Cassian spoke. Again, his voice low enough that only she could hear. One more thing, Nora Caldwell. That feeling you have right now, that pull between us, that awareness. I feel it too. Which should not be possible, because you are right. You have no wolf scent, no pack bond. But I feel it anyway. He paused, and Nora forced herself to keep walking, to not turn around, to not acknowledge the truth in his words. Because he was right. There was something between them, some invisible thread that pulled taut. Every time he moved, every time he spoke. We will discuss that as well, Cassian said. Eventually. If you are enjoying this story, do not forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories like this one. The hours that followed blurred together in Nora's memory. She was taken to rooms far grander than anything she had ever seen, rooms with silk curtains and furniture that probably cost more than she would earn in a lifetime. Servants appeared with clothing, with food, with offers of baths and rest that Nora mechanically accepted, because she did not know what else to do. Through it all, she could feel Cassian's presence somewhere in the building, could sense him even through walls and distance. It made no sense. She had no wolf, no bond, no connection to the shifter world. Yet she could feel him like a compass needle finding north. When she was finally summoned to what the servants called the king's study, Nora had been dressed in a gown of deep blue, silk that fit her perfectly, despite no one taking measurements. Magic, she realized. They had used magic to clothe her, to transform her from servant to something else, something that could stand in the presence of a king without causing offense. Cassian was waiting by the window when she entered, his back to her, his hands clasped behind him. He had changed as well, trading his traveling clothes for formal attire that somehow made him look even more dangerous. When he turned, Nora saw that he held the Silvercrest signet ring, the white gold gleaming in the lamplight. Do you know what this represents? He asked without preamble. No, Nora admitted. I have never seen it before today. Cassian set the ring on the desk between them. This ring was worn by the Silvercrest Alpha King. It was a symbol of power, of legitimacy, of the divine right to rule that the Silvercrest line claimed through their connection to the moon goddess herself. When the family was killed, this ring disappeared. We assumed it was destroyed or taken as a trophy by the conspirators. He looked at her intently. But it was not destroyed. It was sealed away, protected by blood magic so powerful that only a true Silvercrest could access it. And you, a servant girl who has lived her entire life believing she was human, managed to open that seal on your first try. I told you. I did not mean to, Nora said. I did not even know what I was touching. Intent does not matter with blood magic, Cassian replied. Only bloodline matters. Only truth matters. And the truth is that you carry Silvercrest blood. The question is how much and through which line. He moved around the desk, closing the distance between them until Nora had to resist the urge to step back. I am going to ask you questions, and I need you to answer honestly. Your life may depend on it. Do you understand? Nora nodded, her throat too tight to speak. Tell me about your parents. Everything you remember. There is not much to tell, Nora said. They died when I was 3. I have some memories, but they are fragmented. My mother had dark hair and a soft voice. She used to sing to me. My father was tall, quiet. He would carry me on his shoulders. That is all I remember. Their names, I do not know. The church said there were no records. They told me I was found wandering in the woods near the border between the Blackthorn and Ashford territories. I was covered in blood, but none of it was mine. They assumed. My parents had been killed by rogues. Cassian's expression tightened. The border between Blackthorn and Ashford, the same region where the Silvercrest estate was located, the same place where the massacre happened. He reached out, and Nora flinched before she could stop herself. Cassian froze, his hand hovering in the air between them. I am not going to hurt you, he said quietly. I just want to see something. May I? Nora did not trust her voice, so she nodded. Cassian's fingers touched her temple, gentle as a whisper, and Nora gasped as power flowed from him into her. It was nothing like the chaotic energy from the seal. This was controlled, purposeful, searching. You have a block in your mind, Cassian murmured, his eyes distant as he concentrated. Someone put a barrier around your memories, your wolf, everything that would identify you as Shifter. It is old magic, crafted when you were very young. Powerful magic. His eyes refocused on her face. Whoever hid you, whoever sealed your wolf away, they loved you very much. This kind of working requires sacrifice, blood, life force. Someone gave up part of themselves to keep you safe. Tears stung Nora's eyes, though she did not know why. She did not remember anyone loving her that much, did not remember anyone caring whether she lived or died. Can you break it? She asked. The block. Can you remove it so I can remember? I can, Cassian said slowly. But I will not. Not yet, continued, at Nora's look of betrayal. The block is tied to your wolf. If I remove it suddenly, your wolf will wake all at once, and the transformation could kill you. You have lived your entire life as human. Your body is not prepared for that kind of change. We need to let it happen gradually. Let your wolf surface slowly as the seal's magic continues to work. He stepped back, giving her space to breathe. Besides, there is another reason to wait. Whoever created that block is likely still alive. And when it breaks, completely, they will know. They will feel it. Which means we need to be ready for whoever comes looking for you. Nora sank into the chair behind her, her legs no longer capable of holding her weight. This is insane. Yesterday I was cleaning linens. Today I am supposedly descended from a dead royal line, with a wolf I never knew I had, and magical blocks in my mind. How am I supposed to believe any of this is real? Because you feel it, Cassian said simply. You feel your wolf stirring. You feel the pull between us. You feel the truth even if your mind has not accepted it yet. He was right, and Nora hated him for it. She could feel all of it, the changes happening inside her body, the awareness of him that refused to fade, the sense that her entire life had been a lie, and she was only now glimpsing reality. What happens now? She asked quietly. Cassian returned to his position by the window, looking out at the grounds below. Now I make a decision that will either save your life or destroy mine. I am going to claim you publicly as my intended mate. Nora's head snapped up. What? No, you cannot. That is insane. It is the only way to protect you, Cassian said, his tone matter of fact. If I announce that you are under my direct protection as my chosen mate, no one will dare touch you. The mate bond is sacred. Violating it is punishable by death. But we are not mates, Nora protested. We do not even know each other. I have no wolf. This is impossible. Cassian turned to face her, and the look in his eyes made her breath catch. Are you certain about that? He asked softly. Are you absolutely certain that what you feel when you look at me is nothing? That the pull between us is imagination? Nora opened her mouth to deny it, but the words would not come, because she was not certain. She was not certain of anything anymore. It does not matter what I feel, she said instead. You are the king. You cannot just claim a random servant as your mate. There must be protocols, expectations, other women who have been preparing for this role their entire lives. There are, Cassian acknowledged. Most notably, Lady Seraphina Ashford, daughter of the Ashford Alpha, and generally considered the most suitable match for political alliance. She has been persistent in her interest. Something cold settled in Nora's stomach at the name Ashford, the same family Marcus had said orchestrated the Silvercrest massacre. If she is from the family that killed mine, Nora said slowly, then announcing me as your mate will make her my enemy. She is already your enemy, Cassian corrected. The moment you opened that seal, the moment the Silvercrest line proved it was not extinct, you became a threat to every family that benefited from their fall. The Ashfords most of all. At least this way, you have my protection. And what do you get out of this? Nora asked. Why would you risk a political alliance with the Ashfords to protect someone you just met? Cassian was silent for a long moment, and when he spoke, his voice was rough with something Nora could not identify. Because when I walked into that hallway and saw you for the first time, I felt the mate bond snap into place. I felt it, even though you have no scent, even though you should be human, even though everything I know about shifter biology says it is impossible. I felt it, and I cannot unfeel it. I cannot ignore it. And I will not watch my mate be destroyed because I was too much of a coward to claim what is mine. The possessiveness in his tone should have frightened her. Instead, Nora felt something warm unfurl in her chest, something that felt dangerously like hope. You barely know me, she whispered. I barely know myself. Then we will learn together, Cassian said. But we will do it with you alive and under my protection. Everything else we can figure out as we go. A knock at the door interrupted them, and Marcus entered at Cassian's command. The Baida looked between them, his expression carefully neutral. My apologies for the interruption, Your Majesty, but there is a situation. Lady Seraphina Ashford has arrived at the estate. She heard about the seal breaking and demands an audience. Cassian's jaw clenched. Of course she did. The woman has spies everywhere. He looked at Nora. Are you ready to face the first of many battles? Nora thought about running, about refusing, about demanding to be taken back to her simple life of invisibility and safety. But that life was gone, burned away the moment she touched that seal. And if she was going to face whatever came next, she would rather do it standing beside a man who looked at her like she mattered than cowering alone. I am ready, she said, rising to her feet. Good. Cassian offered her his arm, a gesture of respect that shocked her. Then let us go meet the woman who will do everything in her power to destroy you. Try not to let her know she succeeded. The confrontation with Lady Seraphina Ashford was everything Nora had feared, and worse. The woman was beautiful in the way predators are beautiful, all sleek lines and calculated grace. Her hair was the color of honey, swept up in an elaborate style that probably took hours to achieve. Her gown was made of fabric so fine it seemed to shimmer with its own light, and jewels glittered at her throat and wrists. She looked like a queen. And when her eyes, ice blue and sharp as blades, landed on Nora, the contempt was unmistakable. So this is the little servant who caused all the excitement, Seraphina said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. How quaint. Cassian's hand tightened fractionally on Nora's arm, a subtle show of support. Lady Ashford, your journey here was swift, almost as if you were already nearby when the seal broke. Seraphina's smile did not waver. I was visiting the neighboring estate. Pure coincidence, I assure you. When I felt the surge of old magic, I naturally came to investigate. One cannot be too careful about these things, especially in these troubled times. Naturally, Cassian said dryly. Then allow me to ease your concerns. The situation is well in hand. Miss Caldwell here inadvertently triggered a Silvercrest seal while performing her duties. I have taken her into protective custody while we investigate the implications. How generous of you. Seraphina murmured, circling them slowly like a shark scenting blood. Though I must admit, I am confused. Why would a simple servant require protective custody? Unless there is more to the story than you are sharing. There is always more to the story, Cassian replied. But in this case, the details are not your concern. Seraphina's eyes flashed, the first crack in her perfect composure. Not my concern? Cassian, darling, everything that affects the stability of your rule is my concern. We have an understanding, you and I. Or have you forgotten the years I have spent supporting your reign? The alliances I have helped forge? The enemies I have helped neutralize? I have forgotten nothing, Cassian said, and there was steel beneath the courtesy now, including the fact that we have no formal arrangement. You have been a valued advisor and ally, Seraphina, but that does not give you authority over my personal decisions. The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. Seraphina stopped circling and faced them directly, and Nora could see the fury burning beneath her. Beautiful mask. Personal decisions, Seraphina repeated. Is that what she is? A personal decision? She is my mate, Cassian said, and the words rang through the room like a bell. I am claiming Nora Caldwell as my chosen mate, and any who wish to challenge that claim can do so formally through the ancient rites. But I warn you now, I will defend that claim with everything I have. The silence that followed was deafening. Nora could hear her own heart pounding, could feel the weight of Seraphina's stare like a physical thing. When the lady finally spoke, her voice was very soft, very dangerous. You are making a mistake, she said. A terrible, costly mistake. This girl is nobody. She has no pack, no lineage, no training. She will make you weak. She will make you vulnerable. And your enemies will destroy you both. Let them try, Cassian said simply. Seraphina looked at Nora then, really looked at her, and what Nora saw in those ice-blue eyes made her blood run cold. It was not just anger or jealousy. It was calculation, planning, the look of someone who had already decided exactly how to eliminate a problem. Well then, Seraphina said, her smile returning though it did not reach her eyes. I suppose I should congratulate you both. How unexpected. How interesting. She swept toward the door, then paused and looked back. I do hope you know what you are doing, Cassian. The Silvercrest line has been extinct for over 2 decades. If anyone were to suddenly appear, claiming that bloodline, well, it would raise so many questions, would it not? Questions about who survived. Questions about who might have helped them survive. Questions about conspiracies and loyalties and all sorts of uncomfortable truths. Her gaze slid to Nora. I wonder what other secrets might come crawling out of the woodwork now that the seal has been broken. I suppose we will all find out soon enough. She left then, gliding through the door with the same predatory grace she had entered with. But her words hung in the air like poison. Marcus, who had been standing guard by the door, let out a long breath. That could have gone worse, he said. Could it? Nora asked shakily. She basically just threatened to expose me as Silvercrest and paint me as part of some conspiracy. She threatened to try, Cassian corrected. Whether she succeeds is another matter entirely. But she is right about one thing. Now that the seal is broken, others will start asking questions. The Ashfords are not the only family with secrets from that night. There were 5 noble houses involved in the coup. The Ashfords led it, but they had help. He released Nora's arm and moved to pour himself a drink from the crystal decanter on the sideboard. We need to move quickly. I will make the formal announcement of our engagement tomorrow at the Moon Court gathering. Every alpha in the territory will be present. Once the declaration is made in front of the court, it becomes binding. No one will be able to touch you without declaring war on me personally. And after that? Nora asked. After that, we prepare for the Blood Moon ceremony, Cassian said. It is in 3 weeks. A sacred ritual where the Alpha King reaffirms his bond with the Moon Goddess and displays his power before the Pax. Traditionally, it is also when mates are formally bound in front of the realm. He met her eyes, If your wolf wakes before then, if the block in your mind continues to deteriorate, the ceremony will be when we find out exactly who and what you are. The moon goddess does not lie during the blood moon. All truths are revealed. What do you think will happen next? Leave your predictions in the comments below. The days that followed were a whirlwind of preparation, protocol, and politics that made Nora's head spin. Cassian had assigned her a suite of rooms in the royal wing, along with a staff of attendants who treated her with a deference that made her deeply uncomfortable. She was fitted for gowns, taught court etiquette by a stern woman named Helena, who seemed perpetually disappointed in her posture, and subjected to lessons in everything from dancing to diplomatic small talk. Through it all, Nora could feel her wolf growing stronger. It started as whispers, impressions, fleeting moments where her senses would sharpen or her instincts would flare. But with each passing day, the presence grew more distinct, more insistent. She began to catch scents she had never noticed before, could hear conversations from rooms away, felt urges to run and hunt and howl that she had to constantly suppress. The block in her mind was crumbling, and with it, fragments of memory began to surface. Flashes of a grand hall filled with wolves, a woman's laughter, warm and musical, strong arms lifting her high, and blood. So much blood. The nightmares started on the third day. Nora would wake gasping, images of fire and screaming still vivid behind her eyes. But when she tried to grasp the details, they slipped away like smoke. Cassian visited her every evening, ostensibly to check on her progress, but really, Nora suspected, to reinforce the mate bond that grew stronger with each interaction. They would talk for hours, about everything and nothing. He told her about the politics of ruling, about the delicate balance he maintained between the packs. She told him about her life in the orphanage, about the small kindnesses that had sustained her through years of loneliness. And slowly, carefully, they began to trust each other. "You are not what I expected," Cassian admitted one evening as they sat in the garden overlooking the estate grounds. "When I felt the mate bond, I thought the moon goddess had made a mistake. You had no scent, no wolf. It made no sense." "And now?" Nora asked. "Now I think perhaps she knew exactly what she was doing," Cassian said quietly. "You have a strength in you, Nora. Not the obvious kind. Not the warrior strength of and claws, fangs, but something deeper. You survived when your entire family was slaughtered. You endured years of isolation and hardship without becoming bitter or cruel. You faced Seraphina Ashford without flinching, even though she terrified you." He looked at her intently. "That kind of strength is rare. It is the kind of strength a king needs in his queen." The word queen made Nora's stomach flip. "I am not queen material," she said. "I can barely remember which fork to use at formal dinners." "Helena will teach you the forks," Cassian said with a hint of amusement. "But the rest, the things that actually matter, you already have." Before Nora could respond, a howl split the night air. It was followed by another, then another, until a chorus of voices rose from the woods surrounding the estate. Cassian was on his feet instantly, his entire demeanor shifting from gentle to lethal in a heartbeat. "Marcus," he called, and the beta appeared from the shadows where he had been standing. "Watch. Report." "Scouts," Marcus said grimly. 3 packs worth circling the perimeter. They have not crossed the boundary yet, but they are making their presence known." "Which packs?" "Ashford, Thornwood, and Blackwater," Marcus replied. "The same 3 families that stood with Ashford during the coup." Cassian's eyes flashed gold, his wolf rising close to the surface. "They are testing me. Seeing if I will back down from my claim now that Seraphina has undoubtedly spread word about Nora's possible Silvercrest heritage." He looked at Nora, and his expression softened fractionally. "I need to address this. Will you be all right here with Helena and the guards?" Nora wanted to say no, wanted to beg him not to go, but she forced herself to nod. She could not be a weakness he had to protect every moment. If she was going to survive in this world, she needed to be strong enough to stand alone. Cassian seemed to sense her resolve, because he smiled, fierce and proud. "That is my mate," he said quietly. Then he was gone, moving with inhuman speed toward the source of the howling. Helena appeared at Nora's elbow, guiding her firmly back toward the palace. "Come, Miss Caldwell. It is not safe to be outside during pack challenges." But as they walked, Nora felt something shift inside her. The howling outside was not just noise. It was communication, a language she did not know she understood until this moment. The wolves were not just circling. They were calling, challenging, demanding response. And deep inside her, her own wolf answered. Nora gasped as power surged through her body, more intense than anything she had felt before. Her vision blurred, sharpened, blurred again. Her bones ached as if they were trying to reshape themselves. Helena caught her as she stumbled, and Nora heard the woman calling for help, but the words seemed distant, muffled, because all she could hear was her wolf who was awake, her wolf who was furious, her wolf who recognized the howls outside as a threat to their mate and wanted blood. "No," Nora gasped, fighting for control. "Not yet. Not like this." But her wolf was not listening. She had been caged for too long, suppressed for too many years. And now that she was finally free, she was done being patient. The transformation hit like lightning. One moment Nora was human, struggling to stay upright. The next, her body exploded into change. Bones broke and reformed. Skin split and healed. Her scream became a howl that shattered windows and sent every wolf in the vicinity to their knees. When it ended, when the agony finally faded enough for thought to return, Nora found herself on 4 legs instead of 2. Her body was covered in fur the color of moonlight, pure silver white that seemed to glow in the darkness. She was larger than any wolf she had ever seen, nearly the size of Cassian's massive black form, and she could feel power thrumming through her veins, ancient and vast and terrifying in its intensity. Helena was staring at her with an expression of pure shock. "Moon goddess preserve us," the woman whispered. "The silver wolf, the silver crest royal mark. You are not just descended from the line, you are the heir, the true heir." But Nora was not listening. Her wolf was in control now, and she had only one thought, one purpose. Cassian was facing multiple packs alone, defending their bond, defending her, and she would not let him stand alone. She ran. The world blurred past her as she moved with speed she had never imagined possible. Wolves tried to intercept her, guards shouting orders to stop, but she was past them before they could react. She burst from the palace and into the woods, following the thread of the mate bond like a beacon. She found Cassian at the boundary line, facing down 3 massive wolves, while dozens more circled in the shadows. His black wolf was magnificent, radiating alpha dominance that kept the others at bay, but Nora could see the calculation in their movements. They were waiting for an opening, waiting for him to show weakness. Then Nora stepped into the clearing, and everything stopped. The assembled wolves froze, their attention snapping to her. Nora felt their shock, their fear, their recognition of what she was. The silver wolf, the mark of the Silver Crest royal line. Proof that the extinct dynasty was not extinct at all. Cassian's wolf turned to her, and Nora felt emotions crash through the mate bond. Shock. Pride. Possessiveness so fierce it made her shiver. And beneath it all, recognition. He had known. Some part of him had known exactly what she was from the moment they met. One of the opposing wolves shifted, taking human form. It was an older man with gray-streaked hair and scars marking his face. "The legends were true," he said, his voice carrying across the clearing. "The silver wolf lives. Seraphina said you had found a Silver Crest descendant, Blackthorn, but I thought she was exaggerating. This is no mere descendant. This is the royal bloodline, pure and undiluted." Another wolf shifted, this one a woman with sharp features and calculating eyes. "The question is, where has she been hiding all these years? Who protected her? Who kept her secret while the rest of the Silver Crest line was exterminated?" Cassian shifted back to human form, unconcerned with his nakedness in a way that spoke of complete confidence. "Those questions are irrelevant," he said coldly. "What matters is that she is under my protection as my chosen mate. The mate bond has been declared. Any who challenge it, challenge me directly. You cannot mate with a Silvercrest," the scarred man snarled. "The treaty after the coup was clear. The Silvercrest line forfeited their right to rule. Any surviving members are prohibited from holding power, from forming alliances, from breeding." "The treaty is void," Cassian said flatly. "It was based on the false premise that the entire line was dead. Clearly that was a lie, which means everything that happened that night, everything that followed, needs to be re-examined." The woman laughed, sharp and bitter. "You would overturn 2 decades of peace for one girl? You would risk civil war for a mate bond?" "I would risk everything for my mate," Cassian said, and the absolute certainty in his voice made Nora's heart clench. "But more than that, I will not allow a treaty built on genocide to stand. If the Silvercrest line lives, they deserve justice for what was done to them, and I will see that they get it." The wolves began to growl, a rumbling chorus of threat that made the ground vibrate. Nora could feel the violence building, could sense that they were moments away from an attack that would end in blood and death. Her wolf surged forward, refusing to let her stay silent any longer. When Nora spoke, it was with a voice that carried power she did not know she possessed, a voice that resonated with ancient authority. "Enough." The word cracked across the clearing like a whip, and every wolf went silent. Nora padded forward until she stood beside Cassian, her silver fur gleaming in the moonlight. "You speak of treaties and rights and power as if you have any authority to decide my fate. You do not. I am Silvercrest. I am the Silver Wolf, and I will not be dictated to by the families who slaughtered my bloodkin." She let her power unfurl. Let them feel the weight of royal blood magic that sang in her veins. "You want to know where I have been? I have been surviving, alone, powerless, hidden away while you all benefited from my family's murder. But I am not powerless anymore. I am not hidden anymore. And I will not forget what was done." The wolves began backing away, their dominance displays crumbling in the face of her authority. Even the shifted humans looked shaken, their certainty fracturing. "Go back to your packs," Nora commanded. "Tell your alphas that the Silvercrest line has returned. Tell them that I stand under the protection of the Alpha King as his mate. And tell them that I will have answers about what happened the night my family died. One way or another, the truth will come out." For a long moment, no one moved. Then, one by one, the wolves began to retreat, melting back into the shadows. The scarred man and the calculating woman held their ground a moment longer, their expressions promising that this was far from over. But eventually, they too withdrew, leaving Nora and Cassian alone in the clearing. The moment they were gone, Nora's legs buckled. The surge of power that had sustained her drained away, leaving her shaking and weak. Cassian caught her before she hit the ground, his arms wrapping around her wolf form with surprising gentleness. "Easy," he murmured. "I have got you. You are safe now." Nora tried to shift back to human form, but her body would not obey. She was stuck, trapped in her wolf shape with no idea how to change back. Panic began to build in her chest. Cassian seemed to sense her distress because he began to stroke her fur, his touch soothing. "Listen to my voice," he said quietly. "Your wolf is exhausted from the first shift and from wielding that much power. She needs rest, but you can shift back. You just need to breathe, center yourself, and let your human side surface. I will guide you through it." It took longer than Nora wanted to admit, but eventually, with Cassian's coaching, she felt her body begin to change again. This time the transformation was slower, less violent, though no less uncomfortable. When it finally finished, she was human again, naked and trembling in Cassian's arms. He immediately wrapped his shirt around her, preserving what modesty he could. "That was incredible," he said, and there was awe in his voice. "I have never seen a first shift like that. The power you wielded, the authority in your voice. You were born to rule, Nora. Born to it." Nora buried her face against his chest, overwhelmed by everything that had just happened. "I did not even know what I was doing," she admitted. "My wolf just took over. I could not stop her." "You did not need to stop her," Cassian said. "She did exactly what needed to be done. She showed them that you are not someone to be dismissed or threatened. She showed them what they tried so hard to destroy 23 years ago." He pulled back enough to look at her face. "But she also revealed our hand earlier than I wanted. Now everyone knows not just that you are Silvercrest, but that you carry the royal bloodline. The silver wolf has not been seen since your great-great-grandmother ruled. Its appearance means you are not just any Silvercrest. You are the direct heir to the throne." "I do not want a throne," Nora said desperately. "I just want to survive. I just want to understand what happened to my family." "Then we will find those answers together," Cassian promised. "But I need you to understand something. You unleash that power tonight in front of multiple packs. Word will spread. Within days, every supernatural creature in the realm will know that the silver wolf has returned. Some will see that as hope. Others will see it as a threat that needs to be eliminated before you become too powerful to stop." He cupped her face in his hands. "The blood moon ceremony is in 2 weeks. We need to use that time to prepare you, to train you, to help you master your wolf before you have to stand before the entire realm. Can you do that? Can you trust me to help you?" Nora looked into his amber eyes, saw the genuine concern there alongside the fierce possessiveness. He could have walked away, could have decided she was too much trouble, too much risk. But instead, he was offering to stand with her, to fight for her, to give her the tools she needed to survive. "I trust you," she said quietly. And as the words left her lips, Nora felt the mate bond between them surge stronger, felt it settle into place like a key turning in a lock. This was real. Whatever else was uncertain, whatever dangers lurked in the shadows, this connection between them was true. Cassian's eyes flashed gold, and Nora knew he felt it too. For a moment, she thought he might kiss her. The tension between them pulled taut, electric with possibility. But then he stepped back, creating distance with what seemed like physical effort. "We should get you inside," he said, his voice rough. "You need rest. Tomorrow the real work begins. If you want to see how this story ends, make sure you are subscribed with notifications on." The 2 weeks before the blood moon ceremony passed in a blur of training, politics, and increasingly vivid nightmares. Cassian assigned Marcus to oversee Nora's combat training, teaching her how to fight in both human and wolf form. The beta was patient, but demanding, pushing her past her limits until she thought she might collapse. But with each session, she grew stronger, faster, more confident in her abilities. Helena continued her lessons in etiquette and politics, though the older woman's attitude had shifted from disappointment to something approaching reverence after witnessing Nora's first shift. "You carry yourself like a servant still," Helena would chide. "But you are a princess, the last princess of the oldest bloodline in our history. Your posture, your speech, your very presence must reflect that." Nora tried. She really did. But years of training to be invisible could not be undone in days. What helped more were her private sessions with Cassian. Every evening, he would come to her rooms, and they would practice the formal rituals and dances required for the blood moon ceremony. Being close to him, touching him, moving in sync with him, helped strengthen the mate bond, and gave Nora a center to focus on when everything else felt overwhelming. During one such session, as they practiced the intricate steps of the mating dance that would be performed before the entire court, Cassian spoke quietly. "There is something you need to know about the blood moon ceremony, something I have not told you yet." Nora missed a step, but recovered quickly. "That sounds ominous." "During the ceremony, the moon goddess's power is at its peak. She uses that power to reveal truth, to burn away lies and deception. Anyone standing in her light during the ritual will have their secrets exposed. He met her eyes. For you, that means the block in your mind will shatter completely. Every memory that was sealed away will return all at once. It will be painful. It will be overwhelming. And everyone watching will see your reaction. Nora's heart sank. So everyone will know exactly what happened the night of the massacre. They will see my memories of it. Yes, Cassian confirmed, which is why I wanted to warn you. Give you a choice. We can postpone the ceremony. Wait until your memories return naturally. It might take months, but it would be more private. Nora considered it as they continued to dance. The thought of having her most traumatic memories exposed in front of hundreds of strangers was terrifying. But delaying meant staying in this state of uncertainty, of not knowing who she really was, or what had happened to her family. No, she said finally. We do the ceremony as planned. I need to know the truth. And if making it public helps convince people that I am not lying about my heritage, then so be it. Cassian pulled her closer, breaking the formal dance hold. You are braver than, he murmured against her hair. Braver than I was at your age. You are only a few years older than me, Nora pointed out. You cannot have been that different. I was a coward, Cassian said bluntly. When I saw the opportunity to seize power after the massacre, I took it. I told myself I was bringing order to chaos, preventing further bloodshed. But the truth is, I benefited from your family's death. I built my reign on the ashes of the Silvercrest dynasty. And I never questioned it too deeply, because doing so would have meant admitting I was complicit in an atrocity. Nora pulled back to look at him, surprised by the raw honesty. You did not know I existed. You could not have saved me. But I could have investigated, Cassian said. I could have demanded answers about what really happened that night instead of accepting the official story. I could have at least tried to ensure that justice was served. Instead, I let the Ashfords and their allies control the narrative. Because it was convenient for me. He cupped her face gently. I cannot change the past, but I can promise you this. When your memories reveal the truth about that night, I will ensure that every person responsible faces consequences, even if it means going to war with half the realm. Before Nora could respond, a commotion outside the door interrupted them. Marcus burst in without knocking, his expression grim. Your Majesty, we have a problem. Serafina Ashford has formally challenged the mate. Bond. She is invoking the right of contest. Cassian went very still, and Nora felt rage pulse through the bond between them. When? He asked quietly. Dawn tomorrow. She has already gathered the required witnesses and filed the formal declaration with the Moon Court. It is legal and binding. Marcus looked at Nora apologetically. I am sorry. I should have anticipated this. The right of contest is an ancient law, rarely used, but still valid. Any unmated female of sufficient rank can challenge a declared mate bond if she believes it was formed through deception or coercion. I did not deceive or coerce anyone, Nora protested. The mate bond is real. That is what the contest will determine, Marcus explained. It is a trial by combat. You and Serafina will fight in wolf form. Whoever wins proves their claim is valid. Whoever loses... He trailed off, but Nora understood. Whoever loses dies. This is insane, Nora said, looking between Marcus and Cassian. I have only had my wolf. For 2 weeks. Serafina has been training her entire life. This is not a contest. It is an execution. Which is exactly why she called for it, Cassian said, his voice cold with fury. She knows you are not ready. She is gambling that I will not risk you, and will withdraw the mate claim to save your life. He turned to Nora, and the intensity in his gaze made her breath catch. I will not force you to fight. If you want to withdraw, I will accept it. You will still be under my protection. We can delay the bond until you are stronger. And what happens to you? Nora asked. If I withdraw, Serafina wins by default. Does that mean she can claim you as her mate? Marcus shifted uncomfortably. Technically, yes. The right of contest, if unchallenged, gives the victor the right to claim the mate bond for themselves. Nora felt something fierce and possessive rise in her chest. Her wolf snarling at the very idea of another woman claiming Cassian. 2 weeks ago, she had not even known he existed. Now the thought of losing him felt like losing a part of herself. "I will fight," she said. Cassian shook his head. "Nora, you are not ready. Seraphina is one of the best fighters in her generation. She will kill you." "Then train me," Nora demanded. "We have until dawn. That gives us hours. Train me. Teach me everything you can. And then trust me to fight for what is mine." She stepped closer to him, close enough to feel the heat radiating from his body. "You claimed me as your mate. You said you would risk everything for me. Well, now I am saying the same thing. I will risk everything for you, for us. Because this bond is not convenient or political or fake. It is real. And I will not let Seraphina Ashford take it from me without a fight." For a long moment, Cassian just stared at her. Then, slowly, a smile curved his lips. It was a fierce, wild thing that made him look more wolf than man. "All right," he said. "Then let us make sure you survive until sunrise. Marcus, clear. The training grounds. Gather anyone who has combat experience with speed fighters like Seraphina. We are going to spend the next few hours teaching Nora every dirty trick and exploit we know." Marcus grinned. "Now that sounds like a plan I can support." The hours that followed were brutal. Cassian and Marcus put Nora through scenario after scenario, teaching her how to anticipate attacks, how to use her smaller size and greater speed to her advantage, how to turn an opponent's strength against them. Other wolves joined them, each offering insights from their own fighting styles. By the time dawn began to lighten the sky, Nora was covered in bruises and bite marks, exhausted beyond anything she had ever experienced. But she was also faster, sharper, more confident than she had been the day before. "Remember," Cassian said, as they walked toward the ceremonial grounds where the contest would take place. "Seraphina will try to intimidate you first. She will use words, gestures, anything, to make you doubt yourself. Do not engage. Do not respond. Save all your energy for the fight itself. And if she is just better than me?" Nora asked quietly. "If all the training in the world is not enough?" Cassian stopped walking and turned to face her fully. "Then you make sure that when you fall forward. You fight with everything you have, until your very last breath. You make her work for every inch, make her earn the victory, make her remember your name for the rest of her life." He pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly. "But I do not think it will come to that. I have seen something in you these past 2 weeks, Nora. A fire. A determination. You have survived things that would have broken most people. You will survive this, too." Nora wanted to believe him. Goddess, how she wanted to believe him. But as they approached the ceremonial grounds and she saw the crowd that had gathered, saw Seraphina waiting in the center of the circle in her wolf form, beautiful and deadly and utterly confident, doubt crept in. Seraphina's wolf was the color of honey and cream, sleek and muscular, and at least a third larger than Nora had expected. Her eyes, the same ice blue as her human form, tracked Nora's approach with predatory focus. The officiator, an ancient female wolf with fur gone gray with age, stepped forward. "We gather at dawn to witness the rite of contest. Lady Seraphina Ashford has challenged the declared mate bond between Alpha King Cassian, Blackthorn, and Nora Caldwell. Combat will continue until one opponent yields or dies. There will be no interference from outside parties. Does each combatant understand and accept these terms?" Seraphina shifted to human form just long enough to say, "I accept," then shifted back, showing off how effortlessly she could control her transformation. Nora took a deep breath and shifted as well. It was easier than it had been the first time, but still uncomfortable, still strange. Her silver wolf form drew gasps from the crowd, as it always did, but Nora tried to block out the audience. She needed to focus. She looked at the officiator and nodded her acceptance, unable to speak in wolf form, but hoping the gesture was clear enough. It must have been because the ancient wolf raised her muzzle to the sky and howled. The contest had begun. Seraphina did not waste time with posturing or circling. She attacked immediately, a blur of honey-colored fur and slashing claws that hit Nora like a freight train. They went down in a tangle of limbs and fangs, and Nora barely managed to twist away before Seraphina's jaws closed on her throat. She rolled, came up on her feet, and tried to remember everything Cassian had taught her. Use your speed. Do not try to overpower her. Make her come to you. Seraphina lunged again, and this time Nora was ready. She dodged to the side, letting Seraphina's momentum carry her past, and raked her claws down the other wolf's flank. First blood. The crowd roared, but Nora did not let it distract her. She had landed a hit, but it was superficial. Seraphina was barely wounded. The fighting continued, brutal and vicious. Seraphina was stronger, more experienced, and she used every advantage she had. She drove Nora back, forced her onto the defensive, landed blow after blow that left Nora's silver fur stained with red. But Nora did not yield. Every time she fell, she got back up. Every time Seraphina thought she had won, Nora found some reserve of strength to keep fighting. And slowly, gradually, Nora began to understand the rhythm of Seraphina's attacks. The other wolf was powerful, but she was also arrogant. She repeated patterns, telegraphed her strikes, expected Nora to react in predictable ways. Nora stopped reacting predictably. When Seraphina came in for what should have been a finishing blow, Nora dropped low instead of dodging back. Seraphina's claws passed over her head, and Nora surged upward, jaws closing on Seraphina's throat. Not enough to kill. Not even enough to seriously wound, but enough to prove she could have. Enough to show that she was not helpless prey. Seraphina howled in rage and threw Nora off with a surge of strength that sent her flying. Nora hit the ground hard, the impact driving the air from her lungs. She tried to get up, but her legs would not cooperate. Everything hurt. Everything was screaming at her to just lie down, to yield, to end the pain. Then she felt it, the mate bond, pulsing, with Cassian's absolute faith in her, his certainty that she would win, his pride in how far she had already come, and beneath it all, his love. It crashed over her like a wave, warm and fierce and unshakable. He loved her, not because of her bloodline or her power or her potential, but because of who she was, the woman who cleaned floors without complaint, the woman who faced her fears with trembling hands but never backed down, the woman who chose to fight even when all odds were against her. Nora got to her feet. Her legs shook, blood dripped from a dozen wounds. But she stood. And this time, when Seraphina charged, Nora did not think. She just moved. Her wolf took over completely, instinct and power flowing through her in perfect harmony. She met Seraphina's charge head-on, their bodies colliding with a crack that echoed across the grounds. They grappled, bit, clawed, neither giving ground. And then Nora felt it. The power that had emerged during her first shift, the ancient authority of the Silvercrest bloodline. It rose inside her like a tidal wave, and she let it come. Silver light exploded from her body, so bright that wolves cried out and looked away. It was pure moon magic, the blessing of the goddess herself, and it burned through Nora's veins like liquid starlight. When the light faded, Seraphina lay on the ground, her wolf form trembling, unable to rise. Nora stood over her, her jaws at Seraphina's throat, one bite away from ending it. The crowd had gone. Absolutely silent. Even the ancient officiator looked shocked, her eyes wide with something like awe. "Yield," Nora said, and somehow the word came out even in wolf form, carried on the moon magic still crackling through the air. "Yield or die. Choose now." For a long moment, Seraphina did not move. Then, slowly, she shifted back to human form, exposing her vulnerable throat in the ultimate gesture of submission. "I yield," she whispered, and the words sounded like they were being torn from her. soul. The contest is yours. The mate bond stands. Nora stepped back, releasing her, and shifted to human form as well. She swayed on her feet, the exhaustion finally catching up to her. But before she could fall, Cassian was there. He swept her into his arms, uncaring of the blood, of the watching crowd, of anything except her. "You won," he said, and his voice was thick with emotion. "My fierce, incredible mate. You won. I had good teachers," Nora managed to say before the world went dark. And she knew nothing more. When Nora woke, she was in her rooms, tucked into her bed with bandages covering most of her body. Cassian sat in a chair beside her, his hand holding hers, his eyes closed as if in prayer. "How long was I out?" Nora croaked, her throat dry as sand. Cassian's eyes snapped open, and the relief that flooded his expression was almost painful to witness. 2 days, he said. "You pushed yourself past your limits. The healers said it was a miracle you survived the contest. At all, let alone won it." He brought her hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to her knuckles. "You terrified me. When that light exploded from you and you collapsed afterward, I thought I had lost you. Takes more than that to kill me, apparently," Nora said, trying for humor even though everything hurt. "What happened with Seraphina?" "She left," Cassian said. "The morning after the contest, she and her entire retinue departed for Ashford Lands. She has made no official statement, but sources say she has been in seclusion since her defeat." He hesitated. "There is something else. The moon magic you used during the fight, the power you channeled. It was recorded by the court chroniclers. Every Pack Alpha has now seen proof that you are not just Silvercrest, but that the goddess herself recognizes your claim. Is that good or bad?" Nora asked. "Both," Cassian admitted. "It legitimizes you, makes it nearly impossible for anyone to deny your heritage. But it also makes you a bigger target. Every wolf who dreamed of power, who resented the Silvercrest rule, who benefited from the coup, will now see you as a threat that needs to be eliminated." He squeezed her hand gently. "But we will face it together. The blood moon ceremony is in 5 days. Are you still willing to go through with it? To have your memories revealed in front of the court?" Nora thought about it, about the cost and the risk. But she also thought about the fragments she had been remembering in her dreams. The sound of her mother's laughter, her father's strong arms, the faces of people she had lost and could not quite recall. "I am ready," she said. "I need to know the truth. All of it." The 5 days passed in a blur of recovery and preparation. Nora's wounds healed with supernatural speed, another gift of her Silvercrest blood. By the time the blood moon rose on the night of the ceremony, she was whole again, dressed in a gown of silver and white that seemed to be woven from moonlight. Itself. The ceremony took place in an ancient grove sacred to the moon goddess. Hundreds of wolves gathered, representing every pack in the territory. They stood in a great circle around the central altar, and as Nora walked toward it with Cassian at her side, she felt the weight of their stares. The ancient officiator from the contest stood at the altar, and when she spoke, her voice carried to every corner of the grove. "We gather under the blood moon to witness the bonding of our Alpha King. To his chosen mate. The goddess will judge their union and reveal its truth. Let all who doubt speak now or hold their peace." No one spoke. No one dared. Cassian led Nora to the altar, and they knelt together before it. The moon, huge and red as blood, hung directly overhead. Its light fell on them like a physical touch, and Nora felt power begin to build in the air around them. "Cassian Blackthorn," the officiator intoned, "do you claim this woman as your mate? Your equal? Your partner in all things?" "I do," Cassian said clearly. "Before the goddess and the assembled packs, I claim Nora Caldwell as my mate, my queen, my heart." "Nora Caldwell," the officiator continued, turning to her, "do you accept this bond? Do you claim Cassian Blackthorn as your mate? Your equal? Your partner in all things?" Nora looked at Cassian, at the man who had protected her, trained her, believed in her, even when she did not believe in herself. "I do," she said. "Before the goddess and the assembled, I claim Cassian Blackthorn as my mate, my king, my heart." The blood moon's light intensified, became almost blinding. Nora felt it pierce through her, felt it reaching into the deepest parts of her mind where the block still held. And then, with a sensation like shattering glass, the block broke. Memories flooded back. Not fragments, not dreams. Complete, vivid, terrible memories. She saw her mother, beautiful and strong, with the same silver-white hair that Nora had in her wolf form. Saw her father, the Alpha King, powerful and gentle in equal measure. Saw herself as a small child, laughing and playing in halls she now recognized as the Silvercrest Palace. Then the memories turned dark. Fire, screaming, wolves attacking from within the palace itself, betrayal from those who should have protected them. Her father fighting desperately, trying to hold back the tide. Her mother running with Nora in her arms, searching for escape. They reached a hidden room, a sanctuary protected by ancient magic. Her mother sealed them inside, then knelt before Nora with tears streaming down her face. "Listen to me, my love," her mother said, and Nora could hear the words as clearly as if she were there again. "They are coming for us. They want to end our line, to take our power. But I will not let them have you. I will not let them hurt you." Her mother pulled out the wooden box, the same one Nora had found in the attic. She placed it in front of the small girl Nora had been. Inside, "This box is your heritage, your birthright, proof of who you are. But for you to survive, you must forget. You must become invisible. You must hide until the time is right." Her mother cut her palm, letting blood drip onto the box. "I seal you, Nora Silvercrest. I seal your wolf, your memories, your power. I seal them until someone worthy finds you, until someone strong enough to protect you claims you. This is my gift. This is my sacrifice. Survive, my daughter. Survive and come back to claim what was stolen." The magic had flowed from her mother in waves, so bright and painful that little Nora screamed. She felt her wolf being pushed down, down into sleep. Felt her memories being wrapped in fog. Felt herself becoming less, becoming human, becoming invisible. Her mother had used the last of her strength to create a portal, throwing Nora through it even as the door to their sanctuary shattered. The last thing Nora remembered before the portal closed was her mother facing down a dozen wolves, her eyes fierce and defiant even in defeat. "For Silvercrest," her mother howled. "For my daughter. For the future you will never take from us." Then the portal closed, and Nora was alone in the woods, covered in her mother's blood but unharmed. Crying for parents she was already starting to forget. The memories ended, and Nora found herself back in the present, tears streaming down her face, sobs tearing from her throat. Around her, the assembled pack stood in absolute silence. They had seen it all. Every moment, every sacrifice, every horror. Cassian pulled her against him, his own eyes wet as he held her. "I am sorry," he whispered. "I am so sorry for what was done to you, for what you lost." Nora clung to him, letting herself grieve for the family she had finally remembered, for the mother who had given everything to save her, for the father who had died fighting to protect them, for the childhood that had been stolen, and the years she had spent alone, not knowing who she truly was. When she finally had cried herself empty, she pulled back and looked at the assembled wolves. Many of them were crying too, she realized. Hardened warriors with tears on their faces, moved by what they had witnessed. "You saw," Nora said, her voice rough but clear. "You saw what happened. You saw how my mother died protecting me, how my father died defending his family, how the Silvercrest line was murdered not in fair combat, but through betrayal and treachery." She looked, directly at the section where the Ashford wolves stood. "And you saw who led the attack, who broke into our sanctuary, who ignored the laws of hospitality and honor to slaughter children and civilians along with warriors. An older man stepped forward from the Ashford group, his face grim. What we saw was one child's memory of a chaotic night. Memories can be false. Memories can be implanted. This proves nothing. The blood moon does not lie, the ancient officiator said sharply. The goddess's light reveals only truth. What we witnessed was truth. The Ashford family led the massacre. They broke every law of pack and honor to seize power that was not theirs to take. Murmurs ran through the crowd, growing louder. Nora could feel the tide turning, could feel the shock and anger building as wolves processed what they had seen. "I call for justice," Nora said, and her voice carried the weight of her bloodline, of her mother's sacrifice, of 23 years of stolen life. "I call for the Ashford family to answer for their crimes, for the massacre of the Silvercrest line, for the violation of sacred law, for the corruption of our society with lies and false treaties." "And I second that call," Cassian said, standing beside her. "As Alpha King and as mate to the rightful Silvercrest heir, I demand that the Ashford family face trial for their actions. The council will convene within the week to hear evidence and render judgment." The Ashford wolves began to protest, but they were drowned out by the howls of agreement from the other packs. The tide had turned completely. Nora had won not through combat this time, but through truth. The ceremony continued, though the mood had shifted from purely celebratory to something more complex. Nora and Cassian completed the mating ritual, their wolves running together under the blood moon, while the assembled packs bore witness. When it was done, when the bond was sealed not just by choice, but by ancient magic, Nora felt complete in a way she never had before. She was no longer an orphan, no longer invisible. She was Nora Silvercrest Blackthorn, daughter of a murdered king and queen, mate to the Alpha King, and rightful heir to a dynasty thought extinct. And she would use that position, that power, to ensure that no one else ever suffered as her family had suffered. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who loves epic romance. Tell me in the comments, did you see this ending coming? The trials that followed took months. The Ashford family fought viciously, using every legal maneuver they could to delay and deflect. But the evidence was overwhelming, especially once other survivors began to come forward with their own testimonies about that terrible night. In the end, the Alpha of the Ashford family was executed for treason and murder. Serafina and her remaining relatives were stripped of their titles and lands, reduced to the status of rogues without pack or territory. It was harsh, but necessary. The realm needed to see that justice could still be served, even decades later. Nora threw herself into learning how to rule, working alongside Cassian to reform laws and restore the traditions that had been corrupted after the coup. She discovered she had a talent for diplomacy, for seeing connections and finding compromises that satisfied multiple parties. Her reputation grew, and wolves who had initially dismissed her as a political pawn began to respect her in her own right. 6 months after the Blood Moon ceremony, Nora stood in the rebuilt Silvercrest Palace, looking out over lands that had been desolate for decades, but were now thriving again. Wolves who had been displaced, who had lost their packs to the chaos following the massacre, had returned. They were building a new community, one that honored the past while looking toward the future. Cassian found her there, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "Thinking about your parents?" he asked gently. "Always," Nora admitted. "I wish they could see this. See what we have built from the ashes." "I think they know," Cassian said. "I think your mother especially knows. Her sacrifice was not in vain. You survived. You came back. You reclaimed everything that was stolen." He turned her in his arms so he could see her face. "And you did it while maintaining your compassion, your sense of justice. You could have become cruel, could have sought revenge beyond what was necessary. But you did not. You chose to build rather than destroy. Your parents would be proud." Nora kissed him, pouring all her love and gratitude into the gesture. When they finally broke apart, She smiled. "We have built something good here," she said. "But we are not done yet. There are still wolves who need help, still injustices that need to be addressed, still work to be done. Then we will do it together," Cassian promised. "Today, tomorrow, and every day after. You and me, king and queen, mates, partners." "Partners," Nora agreed, and the word felt like a vow. She had started as nobody, an invisible servant cleaning floors in a house that was not her home. But through courage and determination, through love and sacrifice, she had become something more. She had become herself. Nora Silvercrest Blackthorn, the Silver Wolf, the last princess who refused to stay hidden. And her story, their story, was only beginning.